Hi everyone, so I had some audio issues with my phone when I recorded the video, so I'm just going to do a voiceover here. Before we get started, today's project is to remove the sunshade, which has been sagging for a while. This drives me nuts. So we're going to go over some of the key components, starting with the sunshade fabric. Obviously, this is what we're going to be replacing. Next will be the rolled screen metal protection shell. This is going to come off. I'll show you how. The two screws are right here that attach the shell to the roof. There are both sides, plastic sides, that will stay in place for now. We're going to have the rails as well. That's going to be quite important. I'll show you why. The drive motor assembly, and that's also important, and a metal frame as well that goes around the sunroof. At the end, we'll have the control knob that we'll need in order to actionate the sunshade, remove it, and redeploy it for testing. I'll show you how we're going to get on to do that. So since we already have the headliner out and gives access to everything, we're going to start by removing these two screws, and that's going to help us remove the metal shell. That's going to give us access to the actual sunshade that's rolled in it. Depending on the kit you're going to get, you might or might not need to remove it or disassemble the whole thing, but in my case I had to remove it, and I also needed to remove the saggy sunshade anyways. So note that both plastic ends don't need to be removed. And at this point, obviously, I had access to the broken sunshade. You can see the spring is completely out here, and I'm going to have to take that out. So in order to take it out, I need to retract the sunshade by using the knob. So reconnect the control knob at the very front and slide it out. It looks very messy because frankly it was. And at that point I was able to disengage the shade fabric from the front aluminum rail that will ultimately need to come off in order to reinstall the new shade. Again, depending on the sunshade that you will get, the kit might or might not come with that front header lining or header rail, this aluminum piece here. Ultimately, you will likely have to take it out. So I'm going to go over this in more details. It's a tedious project overall, but it's doable. Right now, what I'm going to do is remove the existing sunshade fabric, which is completely broken, and start disassembling the front liner, the aluminum piece that basically is pulling the sunshade when you actionate the control knob. So let's look into this. So in order to get this project completed, you're going to have to put the sun roof into service mode, and that will give you access to the both plastic ends. These little plastic ends here are very important. They insert into the leading edge in aluminum, and they will have to be removed. There's a lock on there that needs to be disengaged in order for you to remove the entire mechanism along with the sunshade itself. So like I said, it takes a little while, and you're gonna have to remove the part of the sunroof from the top by removing these screws. You can see I'm actually missing one here. I know this sunroof has been worked on in the past unsuccessfully, and on both sides you're going to find these torque screws that you're going to have to remove. There is a process that I'm going to go over to put the sunroof in service mode so that you can ultimately remove one of the glass panels from the top. So you want to work in an area that's protected from the elements ideally, so that you can remove the panel, the glass panel altogether, and that will give you access to additional screws that need to be removed in order to continue servicing the sunshade. You can see I'm currently putting my fingers on this metal frame that goes around the sunroof. This will be important at some point when we reassemble the whole shade assembly. You're going to have to ensure that this frame is positioned correctly. I will get back to this. Now, it does look like it's kind of loose right now, but it's an important component because the headliner actually clips on there. So we're going to just pull on the shade right now, remove it from the header rail, the aluminum piece that acts as a leading edge, if you will, that is all the way to the front of the sunshade. Now the old sunshade is out, which is already great on its own, but it's obviously just the starting point. So these little plastic pieces that I'm pointing out right now are the sides of the sunshade assembly. Depending on the kit you're getting, you might or might not get the full ends plus the metal shell plus the actual sunshade, or you might get the sunshade on its own. But in this case, I was better off actually removing the whole assembly. As I mentioned earlier, these two screws that are holding the plastic end caps to the metal shell, you don't have to remove them right away, so you can keep them on, especially if you have the complete kit. So as I explained, you will need to put the sunroof in service mode. In order to do that, you'll have to use the control knob, so you need to reconnect the control module to the connector so that you can control the sunroof. This panel is going to come out. The rear one will come out altogether, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to open up the sunroof all the way, and then we're going to put it in service mode, which fundamentally is just allowing the sunroof to open a little bit further out. And this process is pretty well documented online, but in this case, you just have to rotate the knob a little bit further in for a few seconds, and you'll see that the sunroof is just going to move back another inch or so, which will uncover a couple of screws that are holding the rear panel in place. And these are the ones. These are the screws you need to uncover. And you'll have to be careful because these screws actually have some washers, and they're height adjustment washers. So they're very important. You have to make sure you put them back in the right position. So now let's remove the screws. Torx T20 from what I remember. Again, when you will remove the screw, you'll notice that two washers will be there. One is at the top of the actual mounting bracket for the sunroof glass panel, and one is at the bottom. So make sure you keep them aside when you remove all that, so that you don't lose them. And we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. Make sure to use the right Torx bit, simply because if you don't, you will end up stripping the screw, which actually happened to me on the left side here, on the driver's side, because I used a bit that was too small, and that ended up with my drill on top of that. So that ended up stripping the head of one of the two screws. So make sure you double check your bit size. I can't recall whether it's T20 or T30. Just make sure to use the right one, and at that point you'll be good to go. So we're gonna remove the screw on the passenger side now. Same idea. Much easier to do it with an actual screwdriver. Do it by hand if needed. They shouldn't be too tight, and they should come out pretty easily. And that way you will prevent any stripping by using power tools, which is always a bit of a risk. And you'll see there is a washer on the top here. You can see it spinning. And there is actually a washer at the bottom as well, which is under the glass panel little tab here, or the hole, right? The mounting bracket. Under there's another washer. So be careful not to lose it, because they're important for the height adjustment of that glass panel. So we're gonna take a look at the driver's side right now. Do the same thing, remove the screw. Hopefully it's not stripped too bad. I remember that I had a hard time removing it, but I managed to do it. Certainly that was a mistake, but make sure you use the right bit right off the bat. So now that we've removed the top screws, we're gonna close off the sunroof all the way, and we will access the 4 screws that hold the rear glass panel in position. So we're just gonna pull out the weather strip, as you can tell here. This will give you access to 2 screws on one side and 2 screws on the other side. I'm missing one on one side for some odd reason. Apparently the sunroof has been worked on in the past, and one screw was not put back in place. So I'm just going to remove the rear one on this side, and I'll remove the 2 others on the other side. and then we'll be in a position to remove the rear glass panel. And this is what we're doing right now. So you would do it from inside of the car, you can do it, or you can do it from the outside. You would lift up the rear panel and pull towards the back, simply because you have two tabs that are that we took the screws off from the top earlier, that are still inserted underneath the front glass panel. So it's actually easier to do it this way. And one thing that I wanted to look at was the seam, or the seal gasket that's around the rear panel. As you can tell, there's a little bit of corrosion right there, and I had some water coming in. I could see that when I would go through a car wash, or even when it would rain, I would have water dripping from the top. That could be the reason why I had some water coming in, is because of this corrosion that I showed you earlier. Here, you just saw the washer that I left right there. Yeah, I'm just gonna pick that up and set it aside. That's the washer that goes under, and one of the others actually just kind of rolled all the way back. So I'm also gonna pick that up and set it aside. Don't lose those. Again, they're very important for the adjustment of the height of the rear panel. Just put them back the way they were when you took it apart. The next step here is going to be to remove the screws that are holding the corner brackets, and these pieces are made of plastic. They can get a little brittle, so be careful when you remove them not to break them. These are important parts of the mechanism, and they are at the very end of the tracks where the sunshade travels on, right? So two torque screws, again, I believe they're T20s. Take them out, because this will allow you to remove the aluminum edge, so the leading bar, if you will, so the piece that's at the very front of the sunshade, that will allow you to take it out completely. In order to take out these pieces, as you will see, they're actually screwed on and clipped into place. So there is a clip on the side here. There's like a little latch or a little tooth. So you're gonna have to spread that out with a little pick tool or a flat screwdriver in order to remove that part, right? Don't pull on it. Again, it may break. It's all plastic. It might get brittle. So just make sure you take your time to take that piece out. On the other side, one of the pieces was actually broken. So just be cautious not to break that. So once you've removed the two corner pieces, you will have access to the plastic ends of the aluminum front piece, right, that you can see on the picture. These plastic ends are very important. They're critical to the guiding of the sunshade into the rails. And you'll see there's a small piece of metal that inserts right in the middle, right there, of this plastic part. And that basically is the piece that attaches the very initial lead of the sunshade. So when you buy your sunshade kit, you'll see there are two metallic leads that need to be attached to these metallic pieces that are in the middle of the plastic ends here. I know it's difficult to understand, but I will show you how to reattach all this. In this particular case, since I removed the sunshade, the whole plastic and the aluminum leading edge assembly is coming out, and it's coming out from the top. You might have noticed that I'm just pulling it out from the top, and the whole thing is coming out very easily. Now, these are the rails. You can see the latches where the screws are, that attach the rear glass panel. But you also see the rails that the sunshade is traveling on. And it's very, very important that you understand how that works. Now, this is the view of the kit that I bought, which is really not a kit at all. It's a simple shade made of fabric with the two springs on both ends. Now you'll see how this turned out to be a total nightmare, and this actually didn't work out at all. I'm leaving this in the video so that you can see some of the caveats of what can happen, including breaking some of the pieces. In this particular case, this is one of the corner pieces that I was explaining to you earlier. The tab actually snapped off. It was already broken when I took it apart, so it didn't come from me, but that's one of the things that can happen to you when you take the whole thing apart. Now, the installation of the sunshade can go wrong in many different ways, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. This leading edge in aluminum is curved, so you can't really put it the wrong way. The curve will go along with the curve of the sunroof, so you'll see that it's actually curved, right? Now, on both ends, you'll have these plastic guides. There is a specific way to do things on this. There's a little metallic piece right in the middle, and you'll see that the metallic leads of the shade will snap into this little hook, so to speak. The metallic piece right in the middle of the plastic end here that I'm holding in my hand, the shade will hook on this particular little piece here. There's a way to do it, and what I wanted to show you was ultimately that you would be in a position to do it with a pure fabric kit if you ever choose to buy this. I absolutely do not recommend that because I don't think it's designed to really work well, quite frankly. But the way you would do it is you would actually hook it on one end of the little metallic hook on the plastic latch here. You just hook it on and you slide it into position, right? And there's a way after that to install it, but this way has not proven to work in my case. So what I'm showing you here is fundamentally what not to do, because I ended up being successful in installing the sunshade. It was not that sunshade, which ended up being a total disaster. It was a different one, and I'll explain to you why that was. But what I'm doing here, that approach did not work for me. When you actually attach the lead, the metallic lead of the sunshade onto the plastic hook, what I'm doing exactly right now, that didn't work out. So I'm just gonna keep going with this because I'll show you the proper method a little bit further out. A quick note about these end pieces made of plastic. This is basically where the shade is going to roll up into, and in order to install that correctly, you're going to have to run the metallic lead into the opening that's on the towards the outside of that plastic piece. And the rolled up shade is just going to stay in the middle right there. So this opening right there is where you're going to run your lead into. And then the long nipple that's at the end here is going to insert into the roof. There is a specific spot for that. I'll show you how all of this is assembled together a little bit later. Okay, now let's look at the assembled shade into the existing aluminum edge. So that's the front piece. You insert the shade into the groove of this aluminum extruded trim, if you will. So you'll see how that actually goes in. You just have to slide it in. There's a specific way to insert it. But if you do it the right way, and if you've purchased the fabric only shade, just that fabric piece, you're gonna have to insert it into your existing aluminum leading edge, right? Just the way I did here. Again, it depends on the kit you're gonna get, but in the event that you're using the fabric only component, you're gonna have to reuse the leading edge, the aluminum leading piece here, and that's how you would insert it in. Now, again, a quick view of the setup once completed. So we have the two plastic latches at the very end that are correctly inserted into the aluminum leading edge. We have the fabric that's also inserted into the aluminum piece, and we have the two metallic leads that are also attached now to the plastic end pieces, as you can tell. And so far, so good. I mean, the problem that I had with this particular kit is that there is no rigid spool for the fabric to roll onto. And the original one does have a rigid core, so to speak, right? There is a spool that the fabric rolls onto, which provides rigidity. And with this particular kit, there wasn't. There was just the leads, the metallic leads here that would insert into the plastic pieces. And this would then get into the metallic leading edge or the aluminum leading piece. But that was it. There was no spool really in order for the shade to roll correctly onto itself. And that actually proved to be a problem. And that ultimately led to the failure of this entire project. It just didn't work out at all. So as you can tell, everything here is otherwise working well. You would just push the metallic lead onto this little kind of metallic hook on the plastic piece, and you would be able to actually lock that into position pretty easily. So no real trouble here. Now the next step here, as I thought, would have been to insert the shade metallic edge into these plastic end pieces, and then to insert this into the metallic shell and reassemble the whole thing. And again, at that time, I didn't know that I was missing the spool. So there was no spool there. So it was basically doomed to fail. But regardless, this is the way you would normally do it. If you had a spool, you would insert the plastic pieces. You would ensure that the metallic leading edge would be going through the kind of the slot that's on the side, the opening, and that the remaining of the spool would be in the large piece right in the middle of this plastic end piece, right? So if you do, again, purchase the fabric only one, I would highly recommend that you actually use the spool. So install a spool somehow, because this is going to provide some rigidity to your shade, and then go through this process. Now this is where the tricky part starts. It's reinstalling the whole thing. And this is what I'm about to show you here is how the whole thing failed. Now, it's much easier to do this with an assistant or someone who's going to help you with the process, because you really need to be doing it from the top, just like I'm doing now, and from the bottom as well, basically holding the shade in position. So the critical part here is that the metallic lead of the shade that you can actually see right in the middle here, this lead has to get into the rail. And right now it's not in the rail. It's actually sitting on top of the rail. So this is really not installed correctly. And I wanted to point that out because this is what led for this whole thing to turn into a total failure, is that when I started reinstalling the rail and the aluminum leading piece here, I did not insert the Sunshade metallic leads into the rail correctly, and you will see this in a moment. So that is a big problem, because that means that the fundamentally the Sunshade is not being driven into the rails and not being held it's going to remain loose, and it will ultimately sag because the metallic leads will basically come closer and will not be held into the rails where they're supposed to go. So do not do it this way. It's really not going to work. I guarantee you that. I've been there twice, in fact, and it just doesn't work out. So see the little metallic lead here, it's not supposed to be sitting on top. It's supposed to be right into the rail, and there is a way to do this correctly that I will show you. So again, here I wanted to explain to you what was going on. Seeing the metallic leading edge here of the shade, is sitting on top of the rail. It should be inside the rail. And right now it's just not in the proper position. And that's why I thought it was supposed to be installed. And clearly it is not the way it should be supposed to be installed. So keep that in mind, that this leading metallic little tab here is supposed to get inserted into the rail. I'll show you how that's supposed to be done a little bit later in the video. So again, just to show you in more detail here, you have the plastic piece that's at the end of the aluminum piece, and you have the metallic tab here. This is right now sitting on top of the rail when it should be inserted inside the rail. And that's the biggest mistake that I've done right here. This is the inside of the rail. This is where it should be. And it has to go all the way in. What I did in that particular example here is that I managed to kind of put it in, but just on one side when it should be going all the way. And you have to insert it from the very, very end of the rail. I'll show you how you do that. So in order to insert it at the very, very end of the rail, you need to kind of push it backwards and try to get the metallic lead to get into the rail. I thought I had it right here by just, having it on the side, like it gets into the rail, but it only actually gets under one side of the rail versus the entire rail. And well, it's right on top again here. It didn't get inserted correctly. So this particular step is critical. I had it 50% right. I just didn't have it right completely. I thought that just inserting the outer edge of the lead was sufficient. It's not. You need to insert the entire little tab here into the rail. There is an actual groove for that. It's designed to receive it, and then the sunshade will actually just glide on top of the rail. It's a very tedious step, and it's just very difficult to do, in my opinion. And you really have to do it right, because if you don't, the whole thing is just gonna fail, guaranteed. So I'm just going to move forward with that because right now it's just not helping you installing this kit. But that's the way not to do it, is to do it just like that, where the tab actually does not get into the rail all the way, and you will end up having tons of issues. So at this point, I thought I had it right. Obviously, I didn't. And I'm reinserting the end plastic pieces. Paying specific attention to ensuring that the actual sunshade is run correctly in the opening. So that's the end position, and I'll do the same on the other side. Same process fundamentally, because I thought that once I had this inserted correctly, I was good, and I didn't realize that the leads on the top were just not inserted correctly, and that will ultimately lead to a failure here. Again, going all the way to even reinstalling the metallic shield, or the piece that actually protects the sunshade, thinking that everything would be going just fine. I realized after the fact that this was not the proper way to do it. But there's another way that I'm going to show you right after that worked out a lot better. And it's using a different kit, which came with the entire assembly, including the spool that's in the middle of the actual shade itself. So now I'm ready to test, and sure enough, things are not going to go well. So just turning on the ignition, and I'm about to retract, or to extend more so, or deploy the sunshade for the first time. And what's gonna happen is pretty tragic. I'm leaving this in the video so that you can see how things can go wrong, because ultimately, you know, I'm not a professional. I'm trying to use my common sense and use my knowledge as well as I can, but clearly in some situations it just falls short. And this is what happened here. The Sunshade deploys correctly, at least I thought it was, up to the point that, yeah, towards the back here it started sagging and things were just not aligned correctly. The whole thing felt really, really wrong. And I knew at that point that something was off. I just wasn't sure what. So I could tell that the sunshade was not being held in the rail here. And it was kind of flapping around, which was certainly not normal. I just didn't know at that point what was the problem. The one thing that I figured was that the only option I had was to try to retract it back into its own spool to try to reel the springs back up. And it was already too late. As you can tell here, I'm holding one of the springs, one of the tracks in my hand. Yeah, that was done at that point. And this is the end result. A total failure, a total mess, where the shade basically just obviously came out of the tracks, and that didn't work out as well. If you get to the same point as where I am in this video, you did it wrong, just like I did. So we're gonna try that again and do it right this time. Now let's look into this. So by looking at the original spool, I realized that there was a hard core, like an actual spool, that the sunshade would be able to roll onto. And the replacement kit that I had, which actually came in a box, folded in two, certainly didn't have this spool in the middle. And that certainly was part of the problem that I had. So lesson learned, I would make sure to order a new one that actually had a spool in the middle, and that would prevent it from sagging. At least at the time it would retract into the metallic shell that I showed you earlier. So this is the end result. This is basically completely screwed now. I tried to use the spindle and mount it with this kit, didn't work. The springs actually had already unraveled and they were damaged, so there's no way to put it back together. I'm just gonna remove this, keep the main lead bar here. I know how it's done now, which is good, so I'm gonna get a proper kit. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna go at it again in the next few days when I get the parts. From that point I should be in a better position. And it's just a total shit show. That's the previous one. This is the new one. I'll make sure to get a proper kit this time because yeah, this one was garbage. I got it off of Amazon, probably paid about $50 for it, but yeah, it's just no good. Anywho, more to come. I'll continue the video once I get the new parts. Okay, so continuing to work on the sunroof shade. I received this new part this time, which looks quite different from the previous one. It's a lot more complete of a kit. The previous one was just a shade, it didn't even come with the spool in the middle. I already explained that. This one is the full thing. So I'm gonna unpack this, see what's in there. So this is our kit. Like I said, it's a lot more comprehensive. Comes with the kind of the storage area, this piece. Comes with the guides. Everything is pre-mounted already, including with the leading edge here. So it should be significantly easier to assemble. We're gonna do this right now. And I was concerned this was broken. It's not broken. This is a black shade. Mine was gray. Not that it matters much at the end. I don't really care, but just a comment. So we're gonna work on this right now. I might not be able to film everything because fundamentally it's the same thing as what I showed already in the past in terms of the way it gets assembled, but I will point out some of the areas that could be problematic. So let's do it. Alright, so just thought I would make a quick comparison between the two. They're fundamentally the same, right? So if you look at the way this is designed, same length obviously, same parts, so these plastic parts that insert into the very end. We have the same shape, except that this one is in full metal, this one's got openings. This one looks like it got bent a little bit, so I'm gonna have to straighten this because that could be problematic to assemble it. But other than that, looks pretty much similar. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to assemble it now. So one thing, so let me bend this back here because that's should be straight. There we go. There are a couple of things you need to be careful about that I already spotted. So these holes here, these little pins, plastic pins here, they go at the very end of your mechanism, right in these holes, right here. Right? Can't quite see because of there's a lot of light. There we go. You can see it better now. So they insert in there. The leading edge, so that part here goes above, right? So I'll show you once this is done how this fits because it's particularly important. And then we'll put the screws back on. And we'll have to make sure that the edge here and the little metallic ribbon right there inserts into the opening of the rail. So remember, it goes underneath there, right? In this kind of slit here. Right? So it's very important for everything to be lined up correctly. In this particular instance, I need to bring the carrier back here because it's not back there yet. It's all the way up. And then I'll be able to start reassembling this. So I'm gonna do this right now. All right, plot twist everyone, it's a total shit show once again. And it feels like this might be busted. I'm trying to save it. I might be able to because I finally figured out how you're supposed to do it. And in these little guides, there's a little blade. You can see it's the shiny piece here. You need to remove this first. So the guide, the metal guide, has to be inserted all the way into there, not just the edge because the edge is not sufficient. Then it goes saggy again and it ultimately just derails. The whole metal tab needs to be inserted in the groove, and then you remove the tab, so that's the lead, right, is what I meant, the metal lead. Then you remove this little tab from this, and see there is a little lock there. You just have to push down on it and it just comes off, right? Then you insert this at the end of your guide. I can't believe I missed that twice now. So I understand how you're supposed to do it now. This is just a freaking pain in the butt. So this goes in there. So I'm gonna reinsert it with one hand, which is really difficult. There we go. But not to damage the fabric because I might still be able to salvage it. And once this is there, then your guide, the little tab that goes in the metal mount can go back in. Now I'm gonna need both hands to do that. I don't think I can do it with one hand because I need to push the tab underneath. I need to push the lead underneath so that it's facing the hole, and then I'm gonna press down on it, and I'll make sure to be on top of the guide. Let me see if I can do it here. It's gonna be difficult because I don't think I can do it with one hand really. And then this is gonna go and clip on the blue driver, right? And then we should be in business. Let me try to do this, and yeah, let me get back to you. Okay, so I was able to put it back on, and as you can see, the metal is shining through now. This is locked in, this is locked on the blue driver. Everything is fine and dandy. This is now all the way into the groove. I just need to do the same on this. If you look at the still right now, you will see there's something pretty bad that happened earlier that I didn't quite cover. But you see the sunshade is already completely unreeled, right? And the sides of the sunshade that are made of this springy metallic little strip that's designed to actually re-reel the sunshade in when you retract it with the control knob. So when the motor retracts the sunshade, these little springs basically re-roll the sunshade inside the metal housing, right? And I was doing this on your own. Do not do this alone. It will fail, just like it did for me. Both ends, actually, on the new model, the plastic little ends that actually keep the springs from unreeling were not really tight. And at some point, I was working on the top here, and the bottom just fell off, and the whole thing did the exact same thing as the first attempt. So you need two people to do this correctly. I thought I would point that out so that you don't find yourself in the same situation. I know. Might be able to do this before the night comes, but I don't know whether my system here is even salvageable, frankly. It's been pretty damaged when everything went sideways again. So I'm gonna try to show this to you one more time. So you take it out. I'm gonna put the foot down again. So step one, you need to take this little blade off, right? So grab a pair of pliers, pull down on it, and it should come out. Or push down on this part. Either or. You might need a little pointy tool in order to push down. It's started to come off already, so I'm just gonna keep pulling. Come on. Nice. Now that is not a good situation. The whole thing came down. Yeah, that's terrible. Anywho, now that this is completely fucked, so you need to take this out first. Oh, this is so bad. Yeah, now it's pretty much gone. I don't think I can scavenge it off. Might be able to. I'm gonna try again until the night falls here. Fundamentally, this it was put on the other side. So upsetting. Okay. Worst project ever on this bloody car. Worst by far. Well, against all odds, I was able to fully deploy the shade, and look at that, it's beautiful. It's really hard to see because now it's kind of dark out there, but it's perfect. It's not sagging, everything is nice. I was able to reassemble everything on this side too. So now I'm gonna retract it. When you retract it, make sure that the fabric is in the guides up there, right? So you have a little opening, make sure that it's sitting on the side of the little wheel. There's a little groove here where it's supposed to go, because that ensures that everything is reeling back on correctly. So let's try to open it now, see what happens. Fingers crossed, folks. Okay, so now I'm all the way out, retracting. So far so good. It's good, it's good, it's good. It's good. Oh my goodness. It's good. And I stopped right there simply because if I go too far, this is gonna jump out. So I need to actually secure this back again. So put this back on, and I'm in business. I need to put the roof back on, and I should be good. This is unreal. It was so frustrating, but we made it, guys. So I hope this was helpful. I'm gonna, if you have any questions or whatsoever, let me know, but this is not an easy project. Okay, so we're continuing with the shade install on my Tiguan. I know where things actually went awry, so I got the new one right here. It's unfortunate that the previous one just didn't make it after all. You see the spring is all crooked and damaged, so at that point it's done. So I know now how to put it on. I'm gonna remove the leads here. The little metal piece is gonna stay on. I should be able to put it in normally in the truck, and same thing on the other side. One thing that I did is that I filed a little bit the very edge here, so it's hard to see, but I wanted this to be a little round because I've noticed on the last one that it was getting caught on the transition from the small corner piece that covers the track and the track itself. So I thought I would file the very top to make it a little smoother so that it wouldn't get caught right on the sharp edge, right? Because the original design, which I can't really show you now, oh yeah I can, in fact, is very, very straight, and it's very straight on that side as well, see? So this edge right here was getting caught on the truck. So filed it a little bit, make it a little smoother, and hopefully it's gonna get in much more easily now. All right, so let's get to it. So again here, the challenge is that this, when it's all mounted and attached to the lead aluminum piece here, will not get in place. There's just not enough clearance. So I removed one side actually, which might be sufficient, but I don't think it will, because you can't possibly align the lead here, the metal lead, little tab, with the rail without taking this out, based on my experience. So I'm using a little pointy tool and I'm squeezing right in the space here. It's really hard to show with one hand, but basically, if I were to show you this, you would put your little tool right in the little opening right there, just to spread out the little tooth, and then push the little tab down, and it should go down fairly easily. Once this is done, see the tab has started to recess already here, and normally we should be able to just pull it out now. There we are. So now the tab is dislocated from the edge, and I can remove this. This is something that I've done last time already, and it worked out pretty well. So it's very important that you don't let the spring come off, right? Because this and the little tab here will stay in place. This piece stays in place. But you see it's a spring, right? So it's gonna want to unreal, but it's held in position right now, so I think we're in good position, we're in good shape. And like I said, I've kind of felt this a little bit, the edge. It's much easier to do it when it's off, and you see it's round now, so it should actually go in the space, the allocated space, much more easily. There we go. So I like this round shape much better. There we go. Good. So we're going to install it now. All right, so I've got someone helping me here, because quite frankly doing this on your own is pretty much impossible. So you have somebody that actually reading the service manual, it states that you need to be 2 people to do it. First thing is to put in position in the back here, and then insert both ends, these little metallic tabs, into the rails. What's in there, on this side it's more obvious. You put the support, the lead, the plastic edge that I was showing you earlier, you put it back in place, and then you snap the little guide in metal into the slot. Now it's very important that you check that, because here, if you look very carefully, you'll see that the tooth is not fully engaged in there. So I'm gonna have to lift it up a little bit, lift up the little metal tab a tiny bit, so that the tooth actually locks in. Right now it's not locked in the hole. So we're going to do the other side. I need both hands, because this is very difficult to do with one hand, but fundamentally you insert it on one side, so you lift up the edge a little bit, and then you put the metal piece, which is reversed right now, so it goes this way, and then you lock it in. So I'm going to show you the end result. Okay, so one more note. The key here is to manage to line it up underneath there. Once it's lined up with the slot, you just push it down and make sure this is sitting nicely in the rail, just like so, and right above the driver. And then you push down, and this is it. This is now in place. I will have to make sure the little tooth is also locked on the piece of metal. And we have a round edge on the front here that's going to go underneath there, and manage the transition between this piece that goes here, that's held by this screw, and the rail. Okay, so this is down. The courier I know is locked in. This is nice and flush right here. It's flush here, and this is still pressing down on it, plus there is a lock on the side here. So I think we're in good shape. The assembly is now in place. Everything looks good, and there are 3 conditions that need to be met. That's the reason why you need to be 2 people to do this. It's impossible to do by yourself. It's very, very hard. Up here, you'll see that there are plastic parts on either side. Like on this side, you have one, and on that side, you have one. This basically. It basically allows the shade to reel in when you retract it, right? And you see there's a piece that sticks out here at the end, right? So this piece needs to insert into a hole that's at the very end of this rail right here. That's condition number 1, and that's fundamentally your guide to make sure that you're positioning the assembly correctly. Second, there's a little tab that's right at the end, right here. That's on the assembly. I can't really show you, but this should be on top of this frame right here. So if you don't have it on top, it's not mounted correctly, because this tab basically supports the whole assembly, which then in turn supports this piece, the frame piece here, right? So, and this actually glides on top here. So it's very important that you double check these aspects, because otherwise it will not be mounted correctly and you might actually end up having issues. Okay, so one thing to remember is that this little, there's a bit of fabric here, this little piece of tape. I'm gonna put it back there because there is none right now. I remember that this has to be on top of this, right? Because it's designed to prevent metal on metal contact. So I'm gonna take this out and put it back on the new one. Additionally, going back to this side, I showed you that this little tab was not mounted all the way. So we're gonna use our pointy tool and we're just gonna lift it up just like that. And once it's up like this, it should lock into position. I can see it's coming up, and that little tooth here should lock in, right? So I think it's in better shape now. I'm just gonna double check. It's very difficult to see from here, but yeah, that looks better. Okay, it's still not fully engaged, in fact. So I might need both hands to do that. But that's one thing to check on this side. Well, the cover is back on, but it was entered correctly. It was inserted right. So let's continue and test it now. And one last thing before we test it, I've used some silicone spray and lubricant, simply because I wanted to make sure that the tracks were properly lubed before I start reeling this in, right? So the last thing that I need to do is fix that piece up here, put the corner back on, and you see why now I was making a little roundy shape on the front right here, is to ensure that when you would enter the next section of the rail, that it would not catch on it, right? So I figured this will help a little bit. Probably could have done the other side too on the way back, but I think it should be okay. Let's see how that's gonna go. Okay, so final test before I action the motor. It's looking pretty good overall. And in order to test it, they actually recommend to reel the motor in by hand. So you use an Allen key, which is 4 here, and you insert it in the hole of the motor right here, and you just go clockwise from here, and everything should be working correctly. And so far it's doing good, so I think I'm gonna action the motor and see what happens. I'm a little concerned about that, but I think this is normal. I mean, the springs are nice and tight and everything looks good here, so I have no reasons to even think that things will go bad, but let's try it out. Okay, well, let's try this out. I have started the car because my battery is a little weak, so we're gonna go little by little. Okay, so far so good. No odd noise. I go all the way, and it stopped. Okay, it just calibrated itself because it went all the way to the end. Now we're gonna reopen it because that's the concern, is will it reel in correctly? No noise.
no abnormal noise. The lube is probably helping a little bit. Okay. And it's stopping now for some odd reason. Could be a calibrating thing where it should reel in further, but it stops right there for some reasons, which actually is where how far I went when I reeled in by hand. So now it's stopping here. There's likely a calibration process in order for this to go all the way back where it should be. So I'm gonna reel it in again, and I'm gonna keep my finger on the button all the way. Okay. Okay, so now I've locked it in. I'm gonna go back now. Let's see if it reels in all together this time or not. No, it stops still. So I'm gonna have to recalibrate it somehow. I'm not sure about the process. I'm gonna look into it, but the shade looks nice and functional and it reels in nicely. So I think we're very close to the end here.